A woman wrote to a consumer program about her mother's pension. She'd seen a report about women being underpaid and wondered if it applied to her mother, a stay-at-home mom who had divorced in 2002 after reaching state pension age. Her mother's pension had never been reassessed after the divorce. When the daughter finally contacted the DWP to query it, after several months of chasing and appeals, her mother received a payout of more than £41,000. It related to 20 years of underpayments. Her mother had been receiving the wrong amount her entire retirement. This is not an isolated case. It is one of the largest cases from a systematic error that affected, by the DWP's own admission, around 90% of all the pensioners involved, because 90% of them were women. The DWP has now identified over 130,000 people who were underpaid their state pension. By the end of September 2024, nearly £929 million had been paid back. The correction exercise is still running. The government aims to complete all known cases by March 2027, and experts believe the total will exceed £1 billion by the time it does. But here is the part that matters for you watching this right now. Not everyone has been found. The DWP expects it cannot trace more than 15,000 of the affected pensioners or their next of kin where the pensioner has already died. And many who have been found received a letter they didn't act on. Some cases were closed when there was no reply. If you are a woman who reached state pension age before April 2016, or you have a mother, aunt, grandmother, or older female relative who did, this video explains exactly who is affected, exactly how to check, and exactly what to do. Stay with me, because two things decided who fell into this trap. The first is a rule from the original state pension system that many married women didn't know existed, and that in some cases required them to claim a boost they were never properly told about. The second is a DWP computer failure that meant even the women who were entitled to automatic increases didn't always receive them. I'll explain both clearly. Let me start with the background, because the injustice only makes sense if you understand the original system. When the state pension was first set up after the Second World War, it was built around the assumption that most households had a male breadwinner. Married women who had gaps in their national insurance record because they had taken time out to raise children or never worked full-time were entitled to claim a state pension based on their husband's national insurance contributions, specifically 60% of the basic state pension that their husband received. That rule remained in place until the 6th of April 2016, when the new flat-rate state pension was introduced for everyone reaching state pension age from that date onwards. So the women we are talking about today are those who reached state pension age before April 2016 under the old system, where their pension was calculated differently. There are three groups who were affected by errors. Let me take them one by one. The first group is called Category BL. These are married women and now civil partners who have a low state pension in their own right, but who are entitled to have it boosted up to 60% of their husband's or partner's basic state pension once their husband reaches state pension age. From the 17th of March 2008 onwards, this boost was supposed to be applied automatically by the DWP when the husband reached 65. The husband's pension paperwork triggered the system to check the wife's record and uplift it if needed. Before the 17th of March 2008, it was not automatic. Women had to actively claim the uplift themselves. The information about this requirement was buried in the husband's state pension claim form, a form that many women never saw. As one former pensions minister later put it, these women fell victim to a system that relied on married men ticking boxes and passing on forms to their wives. Many women didn't know about the uplift, many didn't claim it, and many therefore received a smaller state pension than they were legally entitled to, for years, sometimes for decades. But even from 2008 onwards, when the uplift was supposed to be automatic, a DWP computer error meant it wasn't always applied. Some women whose husbands retired after 2008 still didn't get the uplift because the system failed to trigger it. The result? DWP's own data shows 45,907 Category BL cases with underpayments, from a review of over 321,000 cases. The average arrears payment for this group was £5,591. The second group is widowed pensioners. When a husband or civil partner dies, a widow is entitled to inherit a portion of their late husband's state pension to top up her own, potentially up to the full basic state pension maximum. In 2026/27, the maximum basic state pension is £184.90 a week. Again, from March 2008 onwards, this uplift was supposed to be automatic. In many cases, it was. In many cases, it wasn't. The DWP found 39,706 underpayments in widowed cases from nearly 445,000 reviewed. The average arrears for widowed women was higher than any other group, £11,905. Some women were underpaid for 15-20 years after their husband died. The third group is Category D, women who reached 80 years old and were receiving some basic state pension, but below the minimum amount guaranteed for over 80s. The DWP failed to automatically trigger the uplift to that minimum for over 33,000 people. The average arrears in this group were £2,202. And then there is a fourth strand, separate from the main LEAP exercise. It involves something called Home Responsibilities Protection. HRP was a scheme introduced in 1978 to protect the state pension entitlement of parents and carers who took time out of work. But between 1978 and 2010, many HRP records were not correctly added to national insurance accounts, often because child benefit claims were missing national insurance numbers. HMRC launched a separate exercise in January 2024 to identify and correct these cases. Over 370,000 letters have been sent. The average payment for HRP corrections so far has been £7,859. Now, the practical question. How do you know if this applies to you, your mother, or another female relative? The simplest approach is to ring the pension service. The number is 0800-731-0469. Tell them you want to query whether the person's state pension may have been underpaid and that you are asking about the LEAP exercise and the married women's uplift. Have their national insurance number ready. Before you call, there are 4 questions that help identify whether the issue is likely. First, did the woman reach state pension age before April 6, 2016? If she reached state pension age after that date, she's on the new flat rate system, and the underpayment issues described here don't apply to her. Second, if she's married or was married, did her husband reach state pension age before March 17, 2008? If so, the uplift was not automatic. She would have had to claim it herself. If she didn't claim it, she may be underpaid. Third, if she is widowed, did her state pension increase when her husband died? If she's not sure, compare her current pension against the maximum basic state pension rate of £184.90 a week. If her pension is significantly lower and she has decades of marriage behind her, it's worth asking. Fourth, is she over 80? If she's receiving some basic state pension but less than the Category D rate, the over 80 uplift may not have been applied. If any of those questions points to a potential issue, call the pension service. You can also write to them if a phone call is difficult. Have the person's national insurance number, date of birth, the date they reached state pension age, and information about their marriage or civil partnership to hand. The DWP says it is systematically working through cases, but cases have been closed when letters went unanswered. and the DWP has confirmed it does not expect to be able to trace more than 15,000 of the affected pensioners. So the assumption that DWP will find everyone and contact them cannot be relied upon. If you think this applies to someone, contact DWP proactively. Now, what happens if the affected woman has died? This is one of the most important parts of this video because it catches families out. If a woman who was underpaid her state pension has since died, the right to the backdated arrears doesn't die with her. The next of kin or the executor of the estate can make a claim. Contact the DWP Bereavement Service on 0800-731-0469, the same pension service line, and explain that you are inquiring about a potential state pension underpayment for a deceased relative. One woman's family came forward after her death and established that she had been underpaid for over a decade. The estate received the arrears in full. The largest single underpayment found by the DWP so far has been over £128,000 for one pensioner. The underpayments found range from 1 penny to that figure. The size of what's owed depends entirely on how long the underpayment ran and how large the gap between what was paid and what should have been paid. One more thing worth knowing. The DWP pays the arrears from the date of the correct entitlement, not the date the error was discovered, and not the date of your call. So the backdating is built in. You don't have to argue for it separately. The DWP does not pay interest on top of the arrears and has resisted paying compensation. The Parliamentary Ombudsman launched a separate investigation into these underpayments. You may also have seen related headlines about WASPI, the Women Against State Pension Inequality campaign, which focuses on a different but related injustice around changes to the state pension age for women born in the 1950s. WASPI is a separate issue from the underpayments we've described today, though both affect a similar demographic. One quick protection before we close, because where there's money and a news story, there are scammers. The real DWP will never call you unsolicited to say they've found money for you and need your bank details to release it. They will not text you offering to process your state pension correction for a fee. Legitimate corrections happen automatically or after you've made contact with them through the official pension service line. Any unsolicited message claiming to help with state pension arrears, it's a scam. Hang up. Forward suspicious texts to 7726. So, 2 things to do. First, if you or a female relative reached state pension age before April 2016, check 1 phone call to the pension service on 0800-731-0469. That call could reveal a 4-figure, 5-figure, or in some cases 6-figure underpayment. Second, if you have a mother, grandmother, aunt, or older female friend who fits this description but who might struggle to navigate this themselves, make the call on their behalf. This is exactly the situation where an informed family member can make an enormous practical difference. And if you're watching this on behalf of someone who has already died, call the pension service anyway. The estate can still claim. This series has now covered the main benefits, tax allowances, and corrections available to UK pensioners and their families. But there's one more piece of money that sits quietly outside all of those categories. A refund specifically for people who drew a lump sum from a pension pot for the first time and were hit by emergency tax they weren't expecting. If you or a partner has accessed a pension pot since you turned 55 and wasn't given the right tax code, you may be owed a refund from HMRC right now. That's a targeted video coming up very soon. Subscribe so it lands in front of you. This channel is for general information only. We are not affiliated with the DWP, HMRC, or any government body, and nothing here is personal financial advice. All figures are current at the time of recording and can change, so always confirm your own situation at gov.uk or with a free advisor such as Citizens Advice or Age UK.